A very warm basics of the day to my dear audience. Today we are going to learn about a very interesting topic in physiotherapy, and it's active and passive movements. As we all know how important movement is in physiotherapy, these two movements are the base of every treatment plan we give to our patient to help them regain the strength of the joint, to increase the mobility, to strengthen the joint, and also the flexibility of joint. This can be used in several effects like the orthopedic, neurological, also post-stroke restoration, also post-operative uses. Understanding how this movement work and how we as therapists can help the patient regain their strength, their mobility and flexibility is very essential for rehabilitation. In this video, I'll be covering some important topics like the key concept and importance of this movement, some evidence from research paper, some book chapters and a reference book which I have taken from, a case study video, and finally a lab demonstration video from our own lab. So let's dive into it. So movement. What do we understand from movement? Moving our hands. That's what movement is. Just moving our joint to a particular range of motion. This definition is by physiotherapy. Like moving a joint in a particular range of motion is what movement is. And it is of two types, active and passive. In active, again, we have two types, active assisted and active resisted. So let's forget all of this. So first, let's know about passive movements. Passive movements. In passive movements, all the work is done by the therapist themselves. The patient just has to sit relaxed in comfortable position and see how the therapist does do their work. In passive movements, we therapists move the joints gently in a particular range of motion till which the patient can extend. This passive movement is particularly used when the patient is unable to move their joint or move their like any limb of their body. It can be due to paralysis, stroke, or several injuries. This passive movement comes handy then. When we move using like therapists move their arm, like move the patient arm by like gently moving their arm in a particular range of motion is what just passive movement actually is. Passive movement has lots of benefits, like it can strengthen the joint, like increase the flexibility of joint, increase the mobility of joint, and also blood flow. Confusing, right? Blood flow from passive movements. It's confusing. It was confusing until some researchers researched about this and they get to the point that yes, passive movement help in blood flow. Now I would like to show you a research paper I have found where it explains clearly how the passive movement helps in like blood flow. So I would like to show it here. So let me zoom in for you all. It'll be easier for you to see. So the line says, although not the primary focus of his investigation, passive exercise was performed prior to dynamic single leg knee extension and increases in blood flow were observed upon the first passive movement. Blood flow increased 3.3-fold above baseline values and peaked 4-5 duty cycles after the onset of movement. So this research paper is from HHS Public Access by Joel D. Trinity and Russell S. Richardson. So if you look at this highlighted section here, it explains that although the main focus of the studies wasn't on passive movement itself, researchers still performed passive exercise before doing dynamic leg movements. This basically means that even without active muscle effort, just moving the leg passively, like someone else moving it for you, can significantly boost blood circulation. And this finding later become a key observation that help researchers explore how passive movement actually are. So this was the research paper I wanted to show you all. So now let's continue with our session. So we were talking about passive movement, and now we know the benefits and how the passive movement is held in, like handy in. Now let's know about active movement. Active movement is just opposite of passive movement. In passive movement, the therapist does all the work, and in active movement, the patient does all the work. We therapists ask the patient to move their joint till which we can, till the way they can, and we therapists absorb it and we like measure the range of motion. The range of motion is measured by goniometry, an instrument called goniometer, in which we measure the range of motion. So active movement is done to measure the range of motion, and we therapists find out how the patient is doing the like movement, and we can measure the range of motion. The active movements are of two types: active assisted and active resisted. In active assisted, the patient does the movements themselves, but we therapists assist the movement, and it's called active assisted, in which we assist the movement. The patient does active movement and we assist. For example, if I tell the patient to bend the elbow a little forward, the patient is able to move till here, and I, as therapist, assist them to move till here. This is called active assisted, in which we assist the patient in moving any joint of the body. So I would like to tell you the reference book I have taken this from. I would like to share the screen. The book I have taken this is from the book Therapeutic Exercise Foundation and Techniques. It's by Caroline Kistner, Lynn Allen Colby, Joan Burstead, and Joan Burstead. In this book, it's clearly written the benefit of active assisted exercise. As you can see, effects of active assisted exercise. The working muscle can cooperate in the production of movement, which they are incapable of achieving without aid. The memory of the correct pattern of coordinated movement is unable for the patient to achieve without assistance. So this line just says that how active assisted movement is helpful for training coordination, how it increases joint range of motion, and this line here that the working muscle can cooperate in the production of movement says that the working or the muscles which they are working in can help in production of movement, in which a patient which cannot perform any movement without using any aids like the walkers, this active assisted movement will help them perform this movement. So this was the book I was talking about. This is about the active assisted I was talking about. Now let's know about active resisted movements. In as in active assisted, the therapist assists the patient movement, and in active resisted, the therapist resists the patient's movement. Like we ask the patient to do a particular movement by themselves, and we resist the force of the joint there, the muscles, the joint, we resist the force. This helps us to check the range of motion and how much the patient can resist the force or any external force. So in active resisted, we do it by 2 fingers, 3 fingers, 4 fingers. Like we put them here and assist the force, like resist the force of the muscles. So now I would like to show you a case study video I have taken from YouTube, which will help you clearly understand what active, passive, active assisted, and active resisted is. I would like to share the screen. Case study video. I would like to watch the video right now. As you can see here, the patient is lying and the therapist is moving their arm by the therapist. And this is called passive movement, in which the therapist is doing all the work. The patient is just relaxed, sitting, and the therapist helping the patient to move their forearm. So this is the passive movement. This is called active assisted exercise. As I said, it can be done by the patient or the therapist themselves, in which the patient performs like the arm, the forearm, and the patient is performing themselves, the active, and this arm, the another arm, I can show you by the arrow. This another arm is resisting, like the assisting to perform this movement, the flexion of forearm. So this is called active assisted exercise. This can be done by the patient themselves and also by any, not just therapist or any other person help. The patient can do this. See the way he is assisting, I have shown you here. I like to just rewind a little bit. In this, as you can see how the patient, the therapist and patient is here. The patient is doing the active movement of this forearm and the other forearm is assisting the movement. This is what active assisted movement is. This and this active movement in which the patient is just performing the movement by themselves without any assistant. The hand is here without any assistant. The patient is performing the movement by themselves. This is active movement. This is also for, like, I will like that. This is also called strengthening exercises. But in this video, we are not talking about strengthening exercises. We are just talking about active and passive movements. So this is also called strengthening exercises. As you can see in this video, patient is doing exercise. This is active assisted exercise. Patient is doing active assisted movement. So this was the video, a case study video I have taken from YouTube, where the patient has a fracture in his right arm and how the therapist is helping him do several movements, the active movement, the active assisted movement, and passive movement. And sorry for that, the case study doesn't have the active resisted movement, but about active resisted movement, I would like to show you a lab demonstration video from our own lab which will help you understand more about active resisted and all the movement yourself. So I would like to share the screen for you. I would like to show you the lab video. In this video, I've also talked about the patient position and the therapist position, in which the patient or my patient was comfortable in sitting position, so he's currently sitting, and I'm in walk standing position, which is very essential for therapists to remain in walk standing position. So it will be easier to demonstrate the exercises and movements we can do. So please watch the video again. I showed you the passive exercise in which I moved the patient arm by all myself. The patient wasn't doing anything. So this is passive. I would like all my audience to please focus on this active resisted because this was not available in that case study video. So please focus on active resistant, how it is done. How I use my two fingers to resist the force of the patient's muscle. This is what active assisted exercise. I'm sorry. This is active resisted exercise in which I resisted the force of the patient, the muscle force of the patient by my two fingers. This is called active resistance. See the way the patient is doing the active movements by themselves. This is what active movement is. The patient doing it without the help of therapist. I'm just standing there still. Without the help of me, the patient is doing the exercise. This is exercise. So this was all for today's session video. In today's video, we learned about active and passive movement, active assisted movement, active resisted movement, and we also learned some evidences from research paper in which we got to know how passive movement increases the blood flow. And also we got to know about a book reference. I hope you all please refer to the book I have shown you. It's Therapeutic Exercise, which you can learn more about active and passive movements. We also showed you a lab demonstration video from our lab in which you got to know about active assisted. Sorry for the case study video. The case study video didn't have the active assisted video, but I hope you understood the active assisted movement by our lab demonstration video. So this was all for today's session. I hope you like it and do please, I will be giving you updated about the upcoming activities and please remain in my channel. Thank you.